In the previous video here, I showed that Windows, actually Windows 10, has built into it a VPN provider. And I pointed out that there are several protocols that I could use, and there are lots of different VPN protocols. These are the tunneling protocols, but most of them also do the authentication and the wrapping. They do it all. And so these are the options that you have in Windows. They are not all the options there are many others. So let's take a quick look at some of those. Pptp, or point-to-point tunneling protocol, is the oldest Microsoft system. This was right up until about Windows NT. This was built into the Windows systems before that. Not particularly secure. It used something for encryption. It used something called Microsoft Point-to-Point Encryption, or MPPE. We really don't use Pptp very much anymore, although, as you saw in my settings, Pptp is certainly one of the things that's available to us. L2TP, well, let me go back up here to B. IKE, or IPsec, and IKE is a combination. IPsec is built into, it's a security system that we use that does authentication and encryption for us, and so we kind of use it and plug it into this thing called IKE, or Internet Key Exchange, in order to create VPNs. In fact, some of these others also can use IPsec along with them. For example, L2TP can also use IPsec, as you'll see. So this system provides all three parts: authentication, encapsulation, and encryption. It allows you various choices. One of the nice things about IPsec is that it allows you to choose what kind of encryption I want and what kind of authentication I want to use. There are various encryption algorithms that we've talked about before, AES, DES, and so on. And so IPsec, you have your choice of which ones you want to use. It can be, I forgot an A here, it can be problematic when using NAT. So when you're behind a device and have a private IP address, you do have to go through some gymnastics in order to make this type work. You may have to set up port forwarding on your router, for example. So it can be a little bit problematic, but this, by the way, is the most common today, and so this is the one that most of us would probably choose. We just have to do that router setup. There's no pre-shared key needed, so I don't have to have a known key on both ends. This Internet Key Exchange helps provide that exchange of keys. L2TP is similar to Pptp, but it was an improvement. It uses the IPsec, as IKE did, for encryption, rather than the old MPPE. And it also does not do really well with NAT. You have to do some router setup to make it useful. So similar to Pptp, but had greater security. It was a later version of it. SSL and SSH are both ways that we encrypt web pages, and both of them can be used for VPNs. These are Unix based, and so typically when we have Unix systems, whether they be servers or your own system or both, we might want to set up these SSL or SSH VPNs. Now, we're not going to go into the details of how you set these up in this particular course, but if you want to go out and watch some YouTube videos on it, you can see how to set these up. I did show you the one in Windows for the client side. We're not going to go into the server side and set up a RAS server, because that would take some time to do. That we don't need that kind of depth for this overview. Now, I want to mention that this is a wireless security class, and VPNs are becoming more and more important in wireless devices, laptops, phones, and so on. And typically you wouldn't go through the trouble of setting up your own client and server unless you have a server and you have another IP address that server exists in. You wouldn't set your own up. Typically you would buy into or find a free service to provide those VPNs for you. And there are lots of them out there. You may have noticed earlier when I was in my, when I called up VPN here, I had one called Hidemi Vpn. This is one I've used occasionally. I can turn it off and on as I wish. It hasn't been my favorite one. I think there is one I like better, and that is called Proton Vpn. And they have a free version. If I click pricing over here, you'll see that they have a free version, and it really doesn't have any limits on it as to how many or how much data you can send via this free VPN. So this is probably the one I would recommend, and I'd probably be switching over to that one for my own use. But wireless devices, you really definitely want to have VPN available to you if you're in a coffee shop, say, and you're on your phone or your laptop, or you're at the airport. You don't want that stuff going across the air without a VPN encrypting it.